I wanted to make sure that you guys know that this is being recorded. We are recording it for obviously for people to view at a later time. And this is also being live streamed on our Facebook page. Pardon the ineptitude of the user here. I'm getting used to all this new technology. But let me backtrack and say we are the Parent Training and Information Center for Texas. We work with parents when it comes to navigating educational needs for your children with disabilities. And I have with me today Ms. Allison Schaberg from Consolidated Planning Group. And then we also have Ms. Tresi Weeks from the Weeks Law Firm. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in just a minute, but a couple of housekeeping things. At the end of the webinar, we will be launching a poll, and we do appreciate your feedback. So if you could take a few minutes at the end of the webinar to do the poll, that would be awesome. If you have questions for the presenters, would you please put those questions in the Q&A? I know during these sessions, people get questions answered during the chat from members of the audience, and that's great. But if you have specific questions for the presenters, please put those in the Q&A, and I will make sure that the presenters get those questions. Also, please make sure that you're very careful about the information that you put in the Q&A. We don't want there to be any issues with privacy or violating privacy. And then also understand that our presenters are only allowed to speak in very general terms right now. If there's anything super specific that we need to get you to them, we can get you connected to them. But I want to make sure that we all are maintaining the confidentiality that we need. So I am going to turn this over to Allison and Tresi, let them introduce themselves and let them get started.
Thanks, Christy. It is a pleasure being back with you today, and a pleasure to be back with Tresi Weeks and the Weeks Law Firm. Today, so we're excited to present about this topic. We do a lot of webinars on a pretty regular basis on all things special needs topics. But one of the big questions that comes up on a pretty regular basis, and I'm sure for Tresi as well, is, we're getting questions all the time on legal questions, and they're getting questions all the time on the financial side of the house. And so today what we're going to be talking about is kind of the lines between legal counsel and special needs, and basically special needs planning and money in the right buckets and planning for special needs. So we're going to be talking about those things today. And again, we have Tresi Weeks here and the Weeks Law Firm. Tresi, tell us a little bit about where you are and the counties that you serve, and tell us a little bit about you.
Oh, thank you, Allison. Thank you, Christy. So I have a law firm, the Weeks Law Firm. We are located in Plano, Texas, but we serve clients all over the state. And most of what our work is we do special needs planning. So we do special needs trust and estate planning for the parents of kids with disabilities. We also do guardianship, but only in Collin County. But we want to make sure that the parents have a really good plan in place. So we're creating that plan for you, working with your team, and then implementing the documents that the client needs to make sure they plan for their child's future.
For sure. And the interesting thing is when it comes to special needs planning, and it's a broad term and it's used widely for a lot of different things. We talk about transition planning and all kinds of these different things. But one of the key things, so the truth is there is a lot of confusion between the lines of what we do and what a law firm does. But one of the things that you hit on whenever you were just speaking, Tresi, is that you're specialized, and we're specialized. That's what we do, right? We eat, sleep, and breathe special needs, and we work with families with kids with disabilities. We don't dabble in this. This isn't something that we sometimes do. This is what we do for a living. And so for families that are just joining us, you have a child with a disability, a loved one with a disability. Maybe they're not a child anymore. Your situation is specialized, and you need a specialist. So when it comes to special needs planners and special needs attorneys, hey, listen, there are a lot of attorneys out there. There are a lot of financial advisors out there. And there are very few that are specialized in special needs. And how important do you think that is, Tresi, when it comes to planning and the nuances that come with special needs? What do you think about that?
So, and I know for attorneys is that special needs trusts and the laws are extremely complex because we're dealing with federal law, state law. We're dealing with how does the local Social Security office interpret those laws? What are the Social Security Administration's internal procedures about what's considered income or a resource? What kind of provisions in a trust would qualify as a special needs trust? So it's extremely complex. It's not something that an attorney can read a book on and be competent. Now, there are attorneys that have forms and they can draft a trust, but typically it would have major errors in it because they don't know all of the complexities. So you want to make sure that you have an attorney that is highly experienced and qualified in this area, because I've seen trusts drafted by attorneys who were not. And if the parents had died with those trusts, it would have not gone well for that child. Even financial advisors, one of the questions clients ask us that we don't answer is, how much do we need for our child's future? If the parents pass away, how much do they need for that child's care? So that's why it's great to have a financial advisor that is experienced in that area, because they can help you run numbers to determine how much you actually need or how to maximize what you have that you'll leave to your child.
For sure. Those future cost estimates are so important. We have specialized software exactly for that to determine those future care cost estimates. What does this look like? Will your child have care needs for the rest of their life, not just the rest of yours? Most families cover these expenses while their child is alive. They've been doing it for 18 years. They continue to do it past age 18, and even in their retirement, they're funding their child's care even with their retirement assets. So, but what happens when we're gone is super, super important. So for sure. So we all have to do, I'm going to let you take this away. You're probably pretty good at your disclaimer of the, I'm just going to turn that over to you, Tresi. I know you have to go through that.
Yeah, because this is not legal advice. This does not create an attorney-client relationship between you and me. You would not be a client until you work with my office individually and we have a fee agreement and things like that. So this is just general advice. These issues that we talk about are extremely complex. So typically I'm going to talk about generalities about the special needs trust or the government benefits. The rules are much more complex than what we would have time for today.
For sure. And yes, today's webinar is in fact being recorded, and whoever registered for today's webinar, either later today or tomorrow, you are going to get an email with the recording, and you are actually going to get a PDF of today's slides too, so you don't have to take notes of every single thing that we say. You'll get those slides, and you'll have our contact information out there as well. So when it comes to special needs, financial advisors, so in short, I like to say, I always summarize this quick, fast, and in a hurry, Tresi, and it's, you guys are the paper and we're the money, right? And so the legal documents, the paper, it has to happen. Is it guardianship? Is it special needs trust and things like that? These are those documents that have to happen. And every single week we have people calling saying, I need a special needs trust. Can you help me? And of course we refer out for that. And you guys probably, again, you have people saying all the time, what is that future care cost estimate? And so those are kind of where those lines are crossed. But a special needs financial advisor, they provide financial advice with special needs considerations factored in. I like to use the term about money in the right buckets. It's all about money in the right buckets. And it's all about, when it comes to the legal stuff, the legal documents being drafted properly for them to be recognized, as correct in the eyes of the Social Security Administration. So, and like you, Tresi, we see train wrecks every week of documents, do-it-yourself documents. We see documents that were drafted by a family friend that is a generalist attorney that is not specialized in special needs, so they didn't have very specific wording that is required by the Social Security Administration. So these are some of the things that we are seeing on a pretty regular basis, and why it is so critically important that you work with a specialist in your unique situation. So as far as some of the things that we do as financial advisors, so some things that people, they have questions on. So we have the same similar licenses as other advisors, okay? Securities licenses, insurance license, and things like that. Financial advisors provide financial advice. It could basically be fee-based or commission-based or a combination of the two. We're able to calculate future care cost estimates that Tresi was talking about a moment ago. And of course, it's all about having money in the right buckets. For a long time, many of the families that we serve, it didn't really matter what buckets the money was in, because their kids didn't really qualify for SSI and Medicaid. They made too much money. They had too many assets. Their kids didn't necessarily qualify. Well, the thing is the switch flips, right? When our kids turn 18, even if they still live with us, they still live under our roof, you're claiming them on their taxes. It's the SSI and Medicaid qualification is based off of their assets. It's based off of them when they turn 18, and not you. So that's how everything changes. We're able to assess current assets and forecast ability to retire and pay for future care. So that's a big thing that we talk about, Tresi, on a pretty regular basis. So if you're married, we're looking at 2 retirements, 25 to 35 years in retirement. So most people save up 25 to 35 years in their working years so they can be retired for 25 to 35 years. And there's 2 retirements right there. Well, when we have a special needs child that's going to need care for the rest of their life, that's almost like another retirement bucket. When we work with some families that have more than one special needs child. So that's a big, these are big things to plan for. So we're able to really forecast that. Some of the nuances with us, we're nationally certified as Social Security advisors, also members of the Special Needs Planning Academy. I also come to you from a perspective of a parent. Like, I'm a mom to 4, I have 2 with special needs, and I've navigated these things. And what I'm going to tell you is I eat, sleep, and breathe this. This is what I do. And it is tough. It is tough when you are transitioning your child and they're moving into adulthood and you're learning, you're drinking from the fire hose, learning about all this SSI and Medicaid and SSDI, Medicare, things like that. It is definitely tough. So we've got your back on those things and can help you and equip you with the tools and resources that you need to be successful and to reach your plan. These are just some of the few of the other things. Yes, Tresi, come on in here.
Just love that you're also considering the parents' retirement, because I have seen cases where all of the parents' money is used up by the end of their life because they didn't plan for their own retirement. And we don't want parents to have to work until they're 90. So I love that you're including that as part of your plan.
It has to be, because the thing is, at the end of the day, as parents, it's on us. We're paying for everything. We're paying for our retirement. If there's residential care, if there's all these different care components for these kids. So we've got to look at that whole big picture of retiring and staying retired, and also having a future care plan for these kids. We're not always physically going to be able to provide the caregiving services that we once did. So some of the other things that we're able to help with. So, again, Tresi on the documents, the special needs trust and things like that, we're able to help you guys set up an ABLE account. Okay. So there are basically, when we start talking and we get in the weeds, and basically there could be a whole presentation on all of these things: ABLE account, special needs trust, guardianship, a whole 1-hour presentation. There's that much detail, but there's basically 2 places that you can have money that the Social Security Administration is not really going to look at for SSI purposes, and that's basically an ABLE account and the special needs trust. And so we're able to help you set up those ABLE accounts so that way you can hit those means-based tests when it comes to, qualifying for SSI and Medicaid. And we're able also to really discuss and strategize on SSI and Medicaid, but more importantly, it's not so much SSI and Medicaid. That's where we start with our kids when they turn 18. But our kids that had disabilities that started prior to age 22, they're going to be basically eligible for childhood disability benefits, which has formerly been called disabled adult child. After 40 years, they changed the word from DAC to childhood disability benefits. But anyway, and that's where our kids are going to basically qualify off of our work record to switch over to Social Security disability, or RSDI, Retirement Survivor Disability Income. And our kids are going to be eligible for 50% of our record when we either retire or we become disabled. Okay, so it's important to know this. So for example, if Tresi's Social Security amount is $4,000 a month, Tresi retires, Tresi has a child with a disability, her disability started prior to age 22, Tresi's child is going to be eligible for 50% of her record. So in that example, she's going to switch over from SSI to RSDI. She's going to be eligible for $2,000 a month, and after 24 months, Medicare. Okay, so we've got SSI, Medicaid, we basically switch over. So that's the why behind this, because that number goes up drastically from an SSI number when we switch over to SSDI in a lot of cases. But what we're able to do with some specialized software is we're able to do a Social Security analysis. So we have highly specialized software that is focused on how and when and how to maximize the Social Security. As far as parents, when do we turn this on? Is there a child in care benefit through the Social Security Administration? We can put it down right down to dollars and cents of exactly what month you should pull the trigger on this and what it will mean to you, your spouse, your child with a disability, multiple children with a disability. And in a lot of cases, we see a spouse that is drawing off of another spouse's record because basically they've been a caregiver for many, many years. So we're able to do analysis on all of those types of things, and it can matter in the long run financially in a big way. So talk to us about legal advice and some of the things that you guys do, Tresi.
Yeah, so what we do is we're really doing more than just preparing legal documents. There are attorneys that can do legal documents, but we're really trying to create a plan so that if you pass away, your child is taken care of. And so we're going to have a lot of documents that we draft. My special needs trusts are customized to my clients. So typically, if you're married, you and your spouse would come in, we would create a special needs trust for your child. Typically, we would also do wills for the parents. And so the wills of the parents might leave their assets to each other. And then when they both pass away, that child's share would go into the special needs trust. So it might be that the special needs trust has nothing in it yet until the parents pass away. But we also look at the type of assets. So for example, if the parents have IRAs and 401ks, there are special rules about what happens when a child inherits it. So for most adult children, when they inherit an IRA or 401k, they have to cash that out within 10 years and pay income tax on that. But if you leave that to a person with a disability, they're not subject to that 10-year rule. They get a lifetime stretch. That means that money can grow tax deferred for the child's lifetime. But we don't want that to go to your child outright because the distributions are considered income. So I draft the trust very carefully so it qualifies for that tax deferred growth. And then the distributions are not paid out in cash. They're distributed in such a way that your child does not lose benefits. So when we're working with a family, if you've got more than one child, we're looking at what assets do you want to leave to each child? What percentage do you want to leave to each child as well? So a lot of complicated factors that most of our clients are not aware of. There's some amazing things we can do because if those IRAs are growing tax-free, you've got great compounding of that as well. And then the other really interesting thing is that a lot of people don't know that if the parents are not married and there's a child support issue, that child support can be ordered for a child with disabilities over the age of 18. And so but that's considered income to your child for SSI Medicaid purposes. And so what we do is we draft a first party special needs trust, and then we work with our client's family law attorney so that they can make sure that that order, that child support order signed by the judge, requires that support to be paid into that first party trust. And then that trust is used up each month. But that way the child support does not disqualify the child. So for example, right now, the highest SSI check in Texas is $841 a month. So if a parent's ordered to pay $900 in child support, that child loses SSI and Medicaid. But if we get the child support order to pay it into a special needs trust, then they don't lose SSI and Medicaid. So they'll get the $900 in support plus the $841 in SSI plus Medicaid. So it's really crucial. So there are just so many things that we do that people don't know they need. And then with the parents, we also do powers of attorney and things like that for the parents, because we're not only planning for your death, but what if you were incapacitated for a period of time? We want to make sure you've got powers of attorney and documents in place so that you and your family can be taken care of without any unnecessary court involvement. And so I know our time is limited today. I do have free webinars just on government benefits, special needs trusts, and ABLE accounts. And in fact, I have one tomorrow at 11:30. So you can go to my website, weekslawfirm.com, and you can find that, sign up. It's free. You just have to sign up to get the Zoom link at 11:30. That'll give you a little bit more information. But what we'd love to do is, if you've got a financial advisor like Allison, we'd love to work as a team because all of these pieces work together.
Allison,
Tresi, you have some questions, Christy?
yeah, and this would be a perfect place to ask them. And I guess they're kind of geared to both of you guys, because I have a couple of people on here who are asking specifically about what you do when parents are divorced, but there is a dispute as into how you want to handle the transition planning, how you want to handle the guardianship. Could you talk about the best course of actions when there is a dispute over the financial planning? What do you do with divorced parents and how to handle that over the age of 18? So I don't know if that's too specific or if y'all can address those kind of generally.
Yeah, I would love to.
It's pretty broad.
Yeah, I'd love to address that, because if the parents are not married, oftentimes I'm doing just the estate planning for one parent. I'm doing their will, their special needs trust. Their estate will go into that trust. We also help you change your beneficiary designation, so life insurance and IRAs can go into that trust. The other parent is responsible for doing their own. Now, I have a few families that actually cooperate together, and I actually do special needs trust for both ex-spouses, for both parents, if they are in agreement. Typically, we would do a separate trust for each parent, because when you create a trust, you get to say who is going to be the trustee of the trust after you pass away. You're going to name successor trustees. You are also going to name what we call a remainder beneficiary. That's who would inherit the trust upon your child's death. So typically, who you would choose as a successor trustee or a remainder beneficiary is going to be different than your ex-spouse. So that's why we typically are doing two different special needs trusts. Those are third-party trusts. Now, if we do a child support trust, that is a first-party trust. It's actually a different type of special needs trust.
Tresi, there's several things that you said that I think we should hit on. So yay, thank you for talking about the child support issue, because that is an issue. It is very common that child support continues post age 18. And then so just a little plug for anybody that may be going through a divorce. I think it's important to find an attorney, a divorce attorney that it maybe is nuanced, or it can at least partner with another attorney that is nuanced in special needs. So that is important. If you already have one that's not, then maybe you can get somebody to partner, with them and kind of give them get the information that is necessary. So that is very important. And we do see people every week that have child support that they're not going to get SSI and Medicaid as a result of the child support. We have also seen horrific payback scenarios where the individual did qualify for SSI and Medicaid, and they overlooked the fact that they were getting child support. And then, many years later, they come back and be like, oh, snap, you owe us all this money. Okay, so that is a very real thing that can happen. And so just main thing that people need to know is this is not a do-it-yourselfer thing. You can't just go into the child support system and redirect your money to a special needs trust. They do need a court order. Is that correct, Tresi?
That is correct. Yeah, and typically you would have your family law attorney doing that part of it, and then I draft, or whoever the special needs trust attorney would draft the trust. You actually have two different attorneys.
That kind of leads us into the next question that was there is this, if the other parent doesn't want to put child support into the special needs trust, can the judge order it anyway?
Yep. Yes.
Absolutely. Most judges aren't going to not do it, basically, because it's the same money. It ends up being the same money. So yeah, so there is that issue. And on the financial question that we had a moment ago, from a financial perspective, what we say, plan for yourself. If your mom, your dad, plan for yourself on what you want to do. If you can collaborate, you guys can get along and everybody can collaborate, that's great. There can be more than one special needs trust. There can be multiple special needs trusts. And so the beauty of that in divorce is everybody can have their own and they can set it up the way they want and how they choose and how everything's going to happen. But if we have a situation where there's a divorce and we say, okay, this is the future care cost estimate for this child, the parent that we're working with, we just say, if you don't have any confirmation or you have no way of knowing what the other person is going to do, or you assume that they're going to do nothing, just do the best you can with what you have to work with. That's what we plan. And so, and if your situation is a little bit different and for beyond a shadow of a doubt that XYZ grandparents are going to leave this much money and those kinds of things, sometimes those scenarios are a little bit different. One thing that you said, Tresi, that I think is super important, and I want to take a pause on this, is the power of attorney and the healthcare power of attorney and how important those documents are. Yes, it's important for mom and dad, but I would argue that you should have meaningful conversations, intentional conversations with your own aging parents. And I would also argue that the power of attorney and the healthcare power of attorney is a great document to have in place when you have 18 plus kids that are going away to college. That's something that we often forget. These kids are young and healthy and good, and we are not thinking about those things. Can you talk to them about the importance of that, Tresi?
Absolutely. We've had some parents call us in a panic because their child in college, their adult child in college, they heard they're in the hospital won't talk to the parents. They don't even have permission to let them know they're in the hospital. So we do the durable power of attorney, which is financial, a medical power of attorney, and also a HIPAA release, and that's the Medical Privacy Act, so that your child can give you permission to talk to those medical providers. And we do this not only for young adults that are going away, but also if you've got a young adult child that has a disability, but they don't need a guardianship, we might do powers of attorney instead of a guardianship.
Yes, and Tresi, like you said, there's like whole webinars on this whole topic on guardianship, partial guardianship, supported decision making, power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney. But just know, if you guys have kids that are coming around the bend to age 18, you can start that guardianship process 6 months in advance. There are all kinds of alternatives, and so do educate yourself on that and attend one of Tresi's webinars on that topic. We also have some webinars on that on our YouTube channel as well. Christy, how are we? Do we have any additional questions that we need to address before we move on?
Yes, ma'am. There's one last one about, can you explain or clarify the difference between a first party and a third party trust?
Of course. So a third-party trust is created with money, somebody else's money. It was not your child's to begin with. So when we're doing estate planning for you as the parent, creating a third-party special needs trust so that your estate goes in it. A first-party trust is created with money that's considered to be your child's. So like child support, or if your child inherits money from somebody outright, that would be a first-party trust. There are some major differences between the two, but the biggest thing that you need to know about the first party trust is that it has a Medicaid payback provision. So whenever your child dies, if there's anything left in the trust, it's going to the state. It's going to pay Medicaid back for whatever they've spent on behalf of your child. Now, the third-party trust that you're creating as part of your estate plan does not have a Medicaid payback provision. So when your child passes away, whatever's left is going to go to whoever you have named as remainder beneficiaries. That might be your other children or family or a charity. So if we don't plan ahead, sometimes it ends up in a first-party trust, which is not ideal. But child support, we don't have a choice. That goes into the first-party trust.
Well, Tresi, of course, there is a Medicaid payback on the ABLE account as well. And sometimes people need the ABLE account, or they might need the first party trust for other reasons too. We talk about settlements and malpractice and other things. It's the child's money. What I've seen, and more recent, we've been setting up ABLE accounts for families that basically the child is turning 18, grandma set up a Schwab account or Fidelity account or something like that is in the child's name, or it's an UGMA that's going to switch over to the child's name. Basically, there's problems with a lot of different things. But basically, because it's the child's money and the child's name, we basically need to move it into a ABLE account or a first party special needs trust in that regard. Either way, there is a Medicaid payback on that. I know that one of my kids has a first party trust, and the scholarship refund, she was getting scholarships from the college, and there were refunds from the college that were basically her money. So that was going to a first party trust as well. So those are all very, very good questions. So tell us more about like some of the things that you guys do, and some of the things that you analyze in your practice, Tresi.
Well, when we're meeting with clients, we ask our clients to fill out a questionnaire about their family, their financial situation. And then again, we're talking about, we find out what government benefits their child is on, what they might be eligible for, and how that fits into the plan. And then typically when I meet with a client, once we gather your information, I find out what your goals are. I might present you with a couple of different options of an estate planning package. Here's package A that does this, here's package B that does this, and then you can decide which package. But we help you decide who is going to be the trustee of your child's trust when you pass away. What percentage do you leave to each child if you've got more than one child? How can we maximize what you've got to go to the child? How can we minimize taxes? And then we're also thinking about, we want to create a support team for your child. So in some of our cases, I'll ask my client to come up with 3 to 5 names of people that when you pass away, they would be the support team for your child. I call it a trust advisory committee. And then they can advocate on your child's behalf to the trustee. They can work as a team with your child and the trustee to determine what your child's needs are and how to get those needs met, come up with budgets and things. And so we're really just trying to create this whole system, a whole team, a whole safety net for the child. But the other big thing that we assist with, and we work with people like Allison, is that you're going to be naming your child's trust as a beneficiary or a contingent beneficiary of your life insurance policies and your IRAs and 401ks. And so we will work with your financial advisors to make sure your child's trust is named properly. I've seen people with special needs trusts, but none of their life insurance or retirement accounts go to that trust. And then it ends up going to your child outright, and it creates a mess. So really coordinating.
Tresi, there's like misnomers on that. We just have to stop and pause and talk about these misnomers. Like, people think I have a will. Everything is set up in my will, and it's going however it says in the will. And so the first misnomer is, when it comes to beneficiaries, life insurance, disability, any investment accounts, the beneficiary on the account is where the money goes. Regardless of what your other legal document says, the beneficiary trumps everything else. So if you get these legal documents and you do not update your beneficiaries, look guys, it's free. It is free to update your beneficiaries. You basically call the company, you get the form, you fill it out, you send it back in, and they process that, and then they send you a confirmation letter. But if you don't do that, it really messes things up. So, but I have to spend time on this, and almost every webinar we do, Tresi, we talk about this, because every single week we see major, major issues with beneficiary designations. This is the difference between a special needs advisor and just a traditional financial advisor. Number one, first and foremost, what we see, and if you've done this, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up. You can totally fix it, and you can fix it for free, right? You don't even have to hire me or Tresi to fix this for you. You can. But basically, what happens is if you're married, we set up our beneficiary oftentimes as our spouse. Our primary beneficiary is our spouse. If I die, my spouse is going to get the money. Then what the mistake many people make is they say, okay, our contingent beneficiary. So if I die and my spouse is already dead and gone, that's easy. I'm going to divide the money equally amongst my children. And so then what happens is they name their children outright. So first things first, we don't like to see minor children named as beneficiary to begin with, because basically what happens is the money sits in trust until they turn 18. And then they get all of the money, which is usually a horrible idea. So that's for our neurotypical kids that do not have disabilities. And then, of course, we never want to name our child that has special needs outright by their name as a beneficiary, because then it is going to mess them up, basically, for state and federally funded programs, what we were talking about, SSI and Medicaid. So again, if you have set this up, now it's very, very important that you look at everything. It's not just your life insurance at work. You may have life insurance that you bought 20 years ago. You may have a pension plan from an old employer that you worked with 15 years ago. 401ks, 403bs, tax sheltered annuities, bank accounts, transfer on death, payable on death. All of these things are things that you need to be looking at. So make a list, put it down to double check this. And I would argue that to have intentional conversations, if you have affluent parents that might leave your special needs child money, to talk to them about this, because their mom and pop financial advisor is not nuanced in special needs, and they don't know, and they might accidentally provide inaccurate advice on that.
Yeah, and another piece of this is when I'm doing the estate planning and the special needs trust for the parents, I give my clients a letter that they can give to other family members so that other families can update their will or their trust or their beneficiary designation to name your child's special needs trust as a beneficiary. So there may be grandparents that might possibly leave something to your child. They can leave it to your special needs trust that you've created. So it's not just for your money. And so we're really trying to have this holistic plan where it really works, trying to get it, make sure nothing goes to your kid outright. And going back to the person that asked about divorced parents, we can't control the other parent. And if they don't do planning, assets may go to your child outright. It's not ideal, but we will deal with it at that point. We can't force them to do it, but we can provide them with information. And if they want to name your child's trust as a beneficiary, they can.
Let's talk about just briefly dealing with it. Okay. For example, sometimes people ask me, so what happens if somebody does accidentally leave money directly to my child? Is basically the process at that point, they're going to need to hire an attorney, need to request a court order for it to be placed into a first party special needs trust. Is that basically how it works?
Well, in Texas, it depends on whether it's going to the child through a will or a trust, or if it's a beneficiary designation. Texas has a statute that allows us to go into court and have a will or a trust modified after somebody's died to create a third-party special needs trust after that person's died. So if somebody had a will that left assets to your child outright, and if all those people are in Texas, the trustees in Texas, we might be able to apply the court to create a third-party trust. But if your child inherits life insurance or retirement accounts, there is no statute. We cannot do a third-party trust. So then we have to create a first-party trust.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I did see something in the chat box. So I'm not a huge fan of DIY stuff. Certainly, special needs trust, things like that. Certainly guardianship, they've got to work with an attorney and things like that. But when it comes to someone asked, like, why should I not just download a power of attorney and a healthcare power of attorney online, sign it and get it notarized? Is there an issue with that, or what issues do you see with that?
Well, yeah, for example, on the financial power of attorney, there are a lot of different things that you can initial or check. Do you know which ones you need to initial or check? Do you need to add some powers to that power of attorney? So it's really better. I mean, maybe it's better than nothing, but you may not know what to initial or what to check. So it's better to have an attorney do it. If you cannot, the forms are better than nothing on powers of attorney, not for wills, not for trust. The forms are worse than nothing. So, but yeah, it's just with those powers of attorney, there are options you can choose that you may or may not know what to choose.
Yeah, I think that that's good. And I think that the key, one thing that I would say is, I would say that I would say probably like up there, like 98, 99% of the clients that we work with, we actually refer out to a special needs attorney, whichever area they're in. And, we're in Texas and we serve a lot of Texas, but we also serve all across the United States. But what I would say is that, I think that it's important to take the steps to look at it now. So when I say we're making these referrals, what I mean by that is, so if this is you, you're not alone, so don't beat yourself up. You are where you are. We're moving forward today. But 95, 98, 99% of people either have an outdated will or have no will at all, no special needs trust. They have like none of these documents in place, or these documents, or they're like, oh yeah, well, we did that when the kids were born, and how old are the kids? Okay, well, they're 20, or, whatever. It's been a long time, 15, 20 years. It's really our recommendation that you have these documents reviewed every 3 to 5 years. Maybe 5 years is on the long side. Maybe you have no changes, but the thing is the law changes. Tresi, I know I've heard you speak at the special needs planning, conference for UT, and you do a great job. You talked about those IRAs and things like that. I remember that well, but the law has changed. This conference happens on a pretty regular basis, and it is slam full of attorneys that basically all they do is special needs, right? And they're there because the laws are changing, pretty quickly. And so I think it's really important to make sure that you have your documents right. A trust is not a special needs trust, just a straight up trust. A living trust is not a special needs trust. And knowing that and making sure that you do in fact have a correct special needs trust is so very important. So those are the things. And like I said, so we see people that need to have documents created. They need to update their documents, or are some people, they had them created and maybe it was the neighbor who's an attorney, it's not special needs, and they just need a separate set of eyes that is specialized in special needs to review their documents to make sure that they're okay. So if you're in that boat, don't put it on the shelf anymore. Don't wait till somebody has a massive stroke, a massive heart attack. They're incapacitated. There's a mental health crisis. They're in the psych ward, and you need access, and you have no access because you don't have these documents in place. So I say just put it on your list to reach out, to connect. Whether you connect with Tresi or you connect with a local attorney, we're happy to make referrals. Just put it on your list to connect with somebody on this. It's too important not to. So basically, we've kind of talked about what the financial advisor does, what the attorneys do, and we work closely together. We're happy to work with firms like Tresi's and getting those beneficiaries changed and updated and helping you complete those forms. I know a lot of advisors send blank forms to their clients to do the beneficiary forms, and it can be a little overwhelming. We definitely help people with that, getting those things changed. But we work together. We get those documents in place. You guys get those tax IDs, those trusts set up, and we get those beneficiaries changed and everything set up correctly. So I think it's just super, super important to kind of think about, it's not about balling up everything that you've done, like everything that you've set up, everything that you've started. If you have a financial advisor and they may have done a great job on managing finances, and most great financial advisors will tell you, no, I don't have any background on that. Maybe you should work with somebody else on that. We're happy to partner with relationships that you have set up. We're never here to rain on any good thing that you've already, done. But what I would say is, it's kind of the marathon, not the sprint. It takes a lot of time and a lot of years. We talked about the 25 to 35 years that we set money aside for our own future, for our retirement. And as we're planning for these kids that have care needs for the rest of their life, we got to take intentional steps to really have things set up properly. How do we fund these special needs trusts? Are we naturally affluent and we're going to leave millions of dollars to the trust? Or are we going to fund these trusts with life insurance? There's so many different ways. And definitely with these partnerships, we can help you navigate and figure out what might be best. Christy, how are we on questions?
We had one just pop up right as you asked me, Allison. It said, can attorneys have specific designations that indicate education, training, or certifications related to special needs? And if so, is there a directory or listing perhaps online where we can resource attorneys in our area?
That's a good question. There is no board certification for special needs attorneys. There's no organization that certifies attorneys. So the answer to that question is no. Now, I will refer you to, there is an organization called the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys. So it's NAELA.org. And this is an organization for attorneys like me who are elder law or special needs attorneys. So even though it's called elder law, it also is an organization for special needs attorneys because there's some overlap in those Medicaid planning things. If you're looking for an attorney in your state, I would recommend that you go to that website and they have a Find an Attorney tab because the attorneys in this organization are highly educated because a lot of the things that we know about how the Social Security is accepting certain assets or whatever, we know it by talking to each other. We talk to each other and say, well, how did they handle this situation? Or your child has an IRA, is that considered a resource or income? A lot of things like that. So we meet and talk and keep up with that. So if you go to the NAELA.org website, you can look for an attorney in your state. And then when you look at the attorneys, some of them are just elder law attorneys, but some of them do both or are special needs. And that would be a great way to find an attorney in your state.
Could you read?
I think that's good. I was just gonna add on to that. I'm sorry. Can you put that in the chat box, Tresi? The National Elder Law, kind of what you were mentioning. I think what I was going to add to that too is your organizations in and around your community that serve special needs. It could be the ARC. The ARC has chapters all across the state. There's so many different organizations. It could be Autism Speaks, it could be Down Syndrome. There's so many different organizations. A lot of those organizations work very closely with the local attorneys. And I would say, although this community is big, it's relatively small, right? So it's pretty easy to get a solid referral. The names of the quality keep bubbling up. Right. The names that people that are doing a good job, they've been around, they've been doing it for a very long time. Those names keep bubbling up. And so, and a lot of times as families with kids with disabilities, we know other people like ourselves. There's a lot of parent support and different groups on Facebook and things like that. So I think that it is relatively easy. And I do know that we definitely have referrals all across the state of attorneys that we do know that have worked well with our clients and they do a great job. But again, I just can't say it enough. Get specialized. Don't do the generalist. Don't do the neighbor next door because he's free. When it comes to these and drafting your documents, it's too important. There's too much. There's definitely too much on the line that can really be messed up as a result of that. Christy, do we have any additional questions?
Yes, we do. To fund special needs trust through life insurance, is that some special type of insurance that you're referring to?
No, really, it's just generalized life insurance, and it's basically, we like to see permanent life insurance in that because, when you have term, there's different types of life insurance: term insurance, temporary coverage for a basic specified period, 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years sometimes. But basically at the end of the term, it's over. So we have a kid that has permanent needs, permanent insurance or some element or combination of both, and some type of permanent insurance to fund that trust. Sometimes term is appropriate if our assets are growing and we just want to cover that period of time while our assets are growing and we know our assets are going to cover the trust in the future. But the main thing with the life insurance is making sure that that beneficiary is set up properly to the special needs trust as opposed to the child outright. So that is the main thing with that. So, and as a special needs advisor, we can really help determine what is that right amount of coverage. And sometimes we're protecting more than just one special needs child. Sometimes we need to protect each other as spouses, because when we're looking at that, for instance, so if we have a spouse that's a caregiver providing caregiving services to your loved one and you're the breadwinner, well, if something happens to that caregiver, they're just as important as you as the breadwinner, because they're providing services to your loved one for free, and nobody else does it for free. In fact, they charge a premium when we're dealing with special needs, right? So making sure that we're replacing income on the worker, making sure that we're replacing, a caregiver that was providing free services is important, but also funding the trust. So it all just depends on kind of what you already have set up. We really like to take a look under the hood of what do you already have in place? What do you have available through work? Are there things through work that could be really, really good, that can, give you high face amounts for basically a low premium? And we call that gravy, right? Because work insurance is typically going to quit when you quit, retire, get fired, or go on disability. So if your special needs trust is contingent on group life insurance through your employer, you should probably rethink that. You should probably have some additional coverage outside of your employer that has nothing to do on whether you quit, retire, get fired, or go on disability. So we are early. We did good. We did not go over. We pride ourselves on trying not to go over on these webinars. You guys have asked a lot of great questions today. It's certainly been our pleasure to be with you today. Certainly my pleasure to have Tresi Weeks back here with us. She's a little bit of a legend up there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Plano area. So if you're up in that area, you definitely want to reach out to her. She can definitely help you. Again, she said that they do guardianship for Collin County. We do have referrals from for other areas and other counties in that area. If you're up that way and you're needing guardianship, we definitely have some referrals out that way as well. But if you're needing a personalized consultation, certainly reach out to the Weeks Law Firm if you're needing a review of those documents and things like that. If you're wanting to talk about special needs trust, she can basically help you all across the state. It doesn't really matter where you are when it comes to those types of documents. Same thing, if you have a specialized situation as it relates to your family member, you need a future care cost estimate on how much the cost of care is going to be for your loved one, or you need that personalized Social Security analysis, certainly reach out to us. We'll be happy to talk to you about your specialized situation as well. Any additional questions, Christy?
Yes, ma'am. We have one last one that is, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm just going to kind of give you a synopsis of what it's asking. It's asking that if the person can put in a will that they want another family member to care for the child and not the biological other parent. So mom wants to put another family member listed in the will to be the caregiver, not the biological dad. And can another family member be put over their trust in the event that their dad does get custody after she passes? I'm trying to keep it general because it got a little specific.
Yeah, we're really talking about two different roles. We have a guardian, and then we have a trustee. The trustee is the person managing the trust assets, the money in that trust, and making distributions for the child's care. The guardian, if you pass away and the child's a minor or they're an adult and they're incapacitated, The guardian is the person who would physically make sure your child is taken care of. So if the child needs a guardian, parents are the natural guardian, so it's going to be the parents. When I do a plan with my clients, I do a document called Declaration of Guardian for my child, where you can state who you want to be your child's guardian if you pass away. But if the other parent is still alive, the court is going to give preference to that parent as a guardian unless they are convicted of certain crimes or have committed child abuse or something like that. So typically they're going to be that. There's nothing you can do to prevent them from being the guardian. All you can do is state who you want to be the guardian. And then if you pass away, that person can apply for guardianship. And then if the other parent contests it, then it's going to be a contested guardianship.
So, and certainly from a trustee perspective, there's such things as corporate trustees, at banks, and there are personal, where you name a family member as trustee, and then we're obviously talking about like on that successor guardianship. One thing that we didn't mention, and it's kind of a whole other rabbit trail, but we like to see families plan ahead and not necessarily name the successor, guardian, a sibling, especially if that sibling is not like vastly different in age and things like that. And it's not hard for a lot of families, but we do see some issues with that successor guardian being a sibling that is closer and similar in age. So just plan early, plan accordingly. And when we're planning early and we're planning accordingly and we're being intentional about this, it puts us in a situation where we're not under the gun, in a fire situation, immediate situation of issues. So, is there legal help for a special needs child 18 who is not incapacitated but needs help?
Yeah, I think those powers of attorney are appropriate when they're 18. You could do the powers of attorney instead of a guardianship.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks everyone. It's been a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. Certainly reach out if you guys have personalized questions that you want to reach out to myself, reach out to Tresi. We're definitely happy to help you. And thanks again, Christy with Partners Resource Network for partnering with us today. It's certainly been our pleasure to be with you.
I look forward to seeing you guys and look forward to seeing you guys again in March. And I'm going to launch the poll for our feedback. And if you did submit a question in the chat that I missed, I will be sending all that information to Tresi and Allison so that they can reach out to you if necessary, or if it was too private information, they can reach out to you also. But yes, the Allison will be, I believe it's you that'll be back with us in March. I believe it is.
I just show up. I show up where they tell me to show up. So thank you so much, Christy. And so you're going to launch the poll. You want everybody to do your poll?
Yes, ma'am. Please fill out the evaluation. Let us know how you think things went. We do appreciate any feedback that you can give us. And I can say that our families in this area have really appreciated the information that you guys have been giving us. So I'm glad that we found this partnership.
Well, we're happy too. And all I can say is, parents, if you have been feeling like this is overwhelming, this is a lot to take in. We're drinking from the fire hose on a normal day with just what we're dealing with our kids. You're not alone, and we're here to help. There's a lot of help out there for you. So we're glad that you took the time to just be here with us today for sure. And so hope to see you guys again. And thanks again, Christy, for all you do.
Thanks, Allison. Thanks, Tresi.
Yeah, thank you, Christy, and thank you, Allison. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye now.
And parents who are still here know I liked Allison's description of drinking from the fire hose. As a regional coordinator here at Partners Resource Network, we are here to help you with things that don't necessarily have to do with obviously the legal and the guardianship. But if you are struggling in the schools with your kiddos, maybe getting the services and supports that they need, or you need us to help you understand school documents, anything education related, please reach out because that's what we're here for. We are here as the Parent Training and Information Center to work with you to help you make sure your children are getting what you feel like they need. And then we also take time to work with the youth as they start getting close to that magical age of 14 and they start working on their transition plans for post-secondary schooling. I am the regional coordinator for kind of the Fort Worth area. But if you need to get in touch with the regional coordinator, you know, in another area of the state, I can facilitate that for you because we do cover the whole entire state. And we would love to be able to assist if you're having questions or concerns about what goes on at school. So I'm going to leave the poll up for a few more minutes to give everybody an opportunity to answer the questions of our poll. And if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat that I can answer or throw them in the Q&A that I can answer. If not, I hope to see you guys back in March. We will be having another webinar with Consolidated Planning in March, and it's going to be college planning for families with special needs. So be looking for information regarding that. And thank you guys for attending. You know, it's a cold, yucky day here in North Texas, but I'm hoping you got some valuable information. I know you guys were on your lunch hour, and we do appreciate you sharing your valuable time with us. And you will be receiving follow-up information from us, access to the recording, access to, you know, whatever information Allison and Tresi send out. So you will be looking for that. And once again, thank you for spending your time with us.